You've probably seen Gervonta Davis or Prince Nassim catapulting themselves across the ring as they throw a knockout punch.
You said, I think pound for pound, look at this right hook right behind the ear. Commitment.
This is what's called a Gazelle punch. A Gazelle punch is used to close the range quickly, and it's generally thrown off the lead hand. You can either throw it as a hook, an uppercut, or a straight shot. And in this video, I'm going to cover how to do that properly. There's a lot of technical ability that is required to throw the Gazelle punch, and if not done properly, then it'll take away any rotational power that you can generate and also leave you open and off balance for a counter. The first thing you need to understand is coiling. Now, coiling is like storing up a load of potential energy to release into your punch. Coiling involves rotating your hips to this position and bending your knee slightly, whilst transferring your weight a little bit forward, but not too far forward to the point where you're off balance. From this position here, I can use the rotation in my hips to generate power for a lead hand punch. I can also use the bend and weight in the bend in my knee and the weight more onto the front foot to be able to spring forward as I do rotate back the other way. So we want to learn how to coil first. So the first step, get in your stance, normal weight distribution, normal shape. And then we want to get into this position here where I've rotated my hips, bent my front knee, and my weight is a little bit more on this front leg like this. From here, I'm in the perfect position to spring forwards and rotate back the other way. Now you can coil or get into this position one of three ways. You can either just do it by itself, by just quickly dipping into this position here. You can do it off throwing a right hand, or you could even do it off slipping a punch, although it's kind of like a long range technique, so wouldn't recommend doing that because you're going to spring forward. There's no way you're going to be close enough range to be able to slip a punch. Or you could use a sort of trunk feint. So you could feint like this, and then off that feint you could release from the coil. Okay, so step number one is coil. Step number two is release from the coil. Now, to make sure that you coil properly, a good way to do this is get into this position and then bring your front foot forward like this. Now, as you see, as I'm coiling and this back foot's coming forward, just as it's about to leave, that is where I release from the coil. That is where I spring up, right? Reason being, all my weight is sort of transferred onto here. I'm just on the edge of falling off balance, moving this foot forward. But from there, that's where I'm going to spring up. That's where I'm going to use the strength in this leg to push off and spring forward, right? So start by doing this. And then just as that back foot's about to leave the ground, you want to push off with this front leg. Remember to rotate back the other way as you do this. So putting these two steps together allows us to release from the coil. Coil, bring that weight forward, push off, and twist back the other way. The correct motion of it should look like this. See how I'm using the bend in my knee to spring forwards and up slightly, and the rotation in my hips to rotate the back the other way. After I've released, I'm bringing this back foot into the position roughly where my lead foot was. So as I'm coming out of here, I'm bringing my back foot in. Before we get on to step 3, make sure you join the free school community. It's linked in the description. There's well over 3,000 people in there helping each other get better at boxing, along with a bunch of boxing courses made by yours truly. Now we know how to release from the coil, and we're ready to move on to step 3. Step 3 is transferring all that force from our legs and the rotation of our hips into our arm and knuckle. The main thing to think about when you're doing the Gazelle punch is that your arm and shoulder needs to be completely relaxed. This punch comes entirely from your legs. Springing up is what generates the force. All your arm is doing is just delivering that force into the knuckle, whether it be an uppercut, a lead hook, or a jab. To relax your arm properly, shake your arm down by your side and let it just hang here like this. After all, that is where Prince Nassim actually threw it from. He'd come down here like this, and then his hands would be down, his arm would be completely relaxed, and then he'd just spring off and let his arm just catapult to the target, right? So his arm would be dangling down like this, and that's where it would come up. So you want your arm to be as relaxed as you can. Shaking it off, leaving it down by your side is a good starting point. After you've thrown it from the hip, nice and relaxed a few times, you can get more comfortable with throwing it from its usual position. Start with your elbow almost touching your stomach like this. Rotate here, make sure the arm's nice and relaxed. And as you spring out, let that arm fully extend out of the rotation and the spring off your legs like that. Now you can adjust which punch you throw depending on the angle this punch comes from. So I could either throw it as a jab, just come straight from here, straight out like a normal jab would be. Or I could throw it as a lead hook. I'm going to bring it out and round. Or you could throw it as an uppercut. I'm going to have my palm facing upwards, and then I'm going to drive it up like that. Sort of like a long range lead uppercut, or sort of like a screw jab. Make sure that final delivery of the punch is you turning your knuckles over, whether that's a jab, whether that's an uppercut, whether that's a lead hook, getting maximum damage out of it. Hope you found this helpful. Join my free school community.